So, good evening everyone. I really thank you for being here. And let me tell you that I'm very honored to be here this evening with you. So, we'll go through this presentation with an analytic title, which is to transcribe or not to transcribe. That is the question. And of course, it is quite, a theatrical title, but it's also, it's true because sometimes it happened to me a lot to hear people during a concert. Why do you play transcriptions? I mean, our repertoire is so big, is complete. Of course, our repertoire is a beautiful repertoire. But through this presentation, we will find out that we may need to transcribe. So we can move on to the next slide. Of course, we have nowadays almost an endless list of transcriptions from, of course, the Baroque music, which is the subject of our meeting and also of our concert that we will have on Saturday. But we have also transcription about, Morricone music, Piazzolla music, also romantic music. So we can start, for example, from this guy. Who is this guy? That you're gonna play on Saturday. Okay? Of course you're gonna play transcription. We could talk about the Italian Antonio Vivaldi. Then we have Handel on that side. And at the end we have Henry Purcell. Okay? So, this is just a small example of some authors that we usually play on the guitar, but that didn't write anything original for our instrument. Can we move on? Pedro? We can move on. So, why should we transcribe music? First of all, the guitar history is strongly intertwined with transcriptions. Not only because we need to transcribe music that is not original for guitar, but also because many guitarists, and I mean guitarists and composers, for example, from the 19th century, like Johann Caspar Merz or Mauro Giuliani, used to transcribe music from other composers. We can talk about Schubert Lieder in Merz transcription, for example, or Rossini aria transcribed by Mauro Giuliani. So we have this natural tendency to transcribe music from other instruments, and also the guitar is a young instrument. What I mean with a young instrument? We have to consider that we got the final shape of the guitar around the half of the 19th century. And with the final shape of the guitar, I don't mean that kind of shape of the modern classical guitar, but I mean that we definitely lost the chorus system, the double string. We gained a sixth string. So it was, a very huge change. But when we were doing that huge change, the violin, for example, had been having its final shape for about 1 century and a half. So the violin has an original repertoire that we cannot have, okay? But, it's a repertoire with a great value. So, it's very important for us to play that kind of repertoire. Because if we considered only original pieces for guitar, imagine a student may miss Bach music, Vivaldi music, all the Baroque music. Okay? Then we have been through a need of equalize the guitar with the other noble, let's say, instruments, like the piano, like the violin, of course, because the guitar is a beautiful instrument, and we can do, you know, a lot of classical music, and we can think that, oh, we're doing such a great classical music, but the history of the guitar has always been intertwined with popular music also. Let's just think to the chitarra battente in the Renaissance, which was kind of guitar used for accompanying some other instrument, or the voice, for example. Or let's think about the flamenco music in Spain, which is wonderful, it's beautiful, but it's different from what we call nowadays, you know, classical music. Can we move on? So, we cannot read this concert program, but I would like you to see those programs. For me, are very important because they refer to a very important figure for our instrument, who was Andrea Segovia, of course. Everyone knows Andrea Segovia. And, you know, sometimes people say, I don't like Segovia, it just sounds old. Or, I like Segovia very much, it's like my only referment in guitar music. Well, we are not discussing about if Segovia was a great guitarist or not in this occasion. But he had a very important role, because through his career, he contributed very much. He contributed very much. Very much.
And the system falls.
It's a moment of suspense. I want that, like this way. I told Pedro that, move the cable.
I didn't move it, I just looked at it.
Your eyes are magic.
Yes, we know.
So, okay, coming back to Segovia. He contributed, he contributed to these programs just to make the guitar make its entrance into the noble instrument panorama. Okay, we can see this program. This is from the Town Hall in New York, and he played a lot of original guitar pieces, of course, but he played Bach music, original for the lute. He played Torre Bermeja and Sevilla by Albéniz. Of course, Bach music is a Baroque transcription, and also Albéniz is music original composed for piano. So it was a way to join the guitar to a noble instrument panorama. We can see also this other program, which is a program from Società del Quartetto in Milano. He played Sor, then Malaz, so transcription, Tarek of course is original, and then Bach. Okay? So he used to mix, and through this kind of work, he contributed very much to place the guitar in a very noble panorama. Can we go on, Pedro? Thank you. So, when we play transcription, when we decide to play a transcription or to transcribe something, we have mostly two ways of doing that. The first way is to transcribe from guitar-related instruments, which may be, you know, the theorbo, the lute, the arch lute, the Baroque lute, okay, or the plucked string with a fretboard. Then we could also take operas from totally different instruments, like piano, violin. Okay, Pedro, you? Let's start from what seems the easiest way. Okay, to transcribe from a guitar-related instrument, which may be, for example, the lute, the vihuela. Okay. First of all, this gives the guitar a great advantage, and that's because we have to think that through the system we can get in touch with a particular style of music which is very far away in time, and it's a chance that the guitar has but many other instruments don't have, because we can transcribe for the lute and have on the guitar, I should say, quite a similar result. Of course, for the other instrument, get in touch with so ancient music is almost impossible. The downside is that the instrument is similar, and you will say, you just said that it is an advantage. Yes, but it may be also a downside, because the instruments, the guitar and the ancient instruments, are similar, but are not the same. So we're gonna find different tunings, like Mariana told us before, like if we take, for example, a Baroque guitar, if we have a reentrant tuning of the instrument, it may be very difficult to have the same result on the guitar. Then we can take under consideration many other aspects, Pedro, also related to an ancient instrument. One of those is the intonation, and it's very important because, for example, let's take the easiest example. I would like to play a piece originally composed for the lute. Okay? We know that conventionally, now the tuning of the lute is higher than the one of the guitar, of course. You know, the guitar, all of us should know the tuning of the guitar. The lute is G, D, A, so the interval between the second, the third, and the fourth string is different. F, C, and G again. Okay? So it changes the intonation. No problem. We invented the couple, of course, that we use to change the intonation of the guitar. That's fine, we have the couple. Where do we have to put the couple? We may think to put it on the third fret. Why not? Because, you know, we have a tone and a half of difference. So I put the couple on the third fret, and we are fine. But with the next slide, we'll find out that it's not this way. I mean, it could be. There's a thing that we should take into consideration. I mean, for us, the A4 reference, I mean, when you just take the diapason or the tuner, and you search for the A4, you know. Yes, it's 440, okay? We can see in this chart that depending on the years and on the location, on the different location, actually in those years that are late years, for example, compared to the one in which the lute was in full activity, changes a lot. Okay, we have 421, we have 451. Okay, it's almost a tone of difference. Okay, we have 443 that is close to the actual diapason. We have 455 in London. So, how can we think that putting the capo on the third fret will give us exactly the same intonation of the ancient instrument. Actually, we cannot. We can try to get close, okay? If we don't have a lute, probably we have to forget to have the same exact result. But this is an advantage for us. And we'll find out with the next slide. Thank you, Pedro. This is an example of a Renaissance piece, very ancient piece by Luis Milan. Okay, the edition is Francisco Díaz Romano in Valencia, 1536. Okay, so we're talking about the 16th century. Of course, the one on the right is the original edition. This one is a transcription by Ruggero Chiesa, Edizioni Subini Zerboni. So probably, it's written for vihuela. Probably this vihuela was intonated in G. And I want you to hear the difference. I will play a very small extract from this piece. And I want you to hear the difference between a performance with the capo and a performance without the capo. This is without the capo. Let's try with the capo. We can put it on the third fret, for example. Okay, let's do another experiment, because, okay, I want to imitate the lute. I put the capo on the third fret. Well, but maybe the diapason at that time was lower. So let's put the capo on the second fret. three very different results in my opinion. I don't know what you think about it, but they were very different from the first, which was, a possibility that just, exploits the very deep sound of the guitar. Then the version with the capo on the third fret was more light, more bright. As well, the version with the capo at the second fret was different as well. So, I actually talked too much, but you will ask me, which is the correct way to do it? Is there a correct way to do it? Well, yes, but actually no. That's because we cannot be sure about this. There are too many things that we cannot control. So, which is the best idea? Just do what you like. I mean, you have to hear the result on the guitar. Okay. To have the same result on the lute, we have to play it on the lute. Okay. Our guitar is not a lute, but you can play lute music on the guitar beautifully if we don't consider the guitar as a lute. We have just to consider that we have to get into that atmosphere. Okay? We need that lightness. We have to remember that the lute had different resonances. The lute has different strings also. Also the real, of course. Different strings because it had coarse strings, double strings, gut strings. Okay, not nylon or carbon strings. So we cannot get the same result. Okay. The conclusion is that transcribing from a guitar-related instrument is a great advantage, but it's just as difficult as transcribing from a totally, completely different instrument. Also, we have to consider the notation, for example. Okay, Mariana talked a lot about the notation. Here we have, okay, it's 1536. We just, after Gutenberg, invention, the print. This is movable type print in three phases. We have the first in which they print, of course, the stuff, then the numbers. We can get easily the notes from the tablature, but we have a huge problem in the rhythm, because we have the rhythm indicated, but we don't have the contrapoint. We don't have the polyphony. Okay, so that's a responsibility of the transcriber. Okay, because, for example, we have the first chord, it's A-E-A. Of course it's A-E-A. You can read it through the tablature, but this is, for example, the first choice. To make it last 4 quarters more. Because las consonancias, espacio, so the consonancias has to be slow, okay? So the transcriber thinks, okay, of course, I need this chord to last 4 quarters. Okay, that's just a small example. Think just of transcribe the whole page with all these things to consider. Okay, it's doable, it's beautiful, but it's very difficult. It's a very complicated matter. Pedro, thank you. You can go on. Okay, so these were some little things that, apart we just thought together while we had the Fantasia score. What to do to avoid that our lute or our guitar make that end. Of course, we have to consider, for example, the different techniques of the lute of the vihuela. You know, our instrument, modern classical guitar, the so-called modern classical guitar, it's based on the alternation of the index and of the middle finger. The lute, for example, was based on the alternation of the thumb and of the index. And why we do the scale on the guitar, just searching for the same weight on the index and on the middle finger. On the lute, the thumb used to be much more heavy than the index. Okay? So for us, this thing is very difficult to realize on the guitar. Of course, the ancient instrument has different string, we talked about that, and a different notation system, of course. Pedro, thank you. So if we take into consideration to transcribe from totally different instruments, we can make a mistake. I mean, just trying all the notes of the original score fit into the guitar, like, okay, I've got an orchestral score, I want to play it on the guitar, I try to put everything I can. Okay, if you think this way, the result will be unbalanced, because you have to search for too many compromises, because the guitar has some limits. But it happens also the opposite, that some music transcribed on the guitar gets a totally new look, and sometimes also enhances value. Okay, Pedro, can we move on? Thank you. Actually, if we try to do that mistake of which we were talking before, we can go into some technical difficulties, because the guitar is a very particular instrument. It has some plus, some advantages, and some downsides. For example, it's a polyphonic instrument, like the piano, but it has a limited range. Okay? The guitar is characterized by great singability, but you cannot swell the sounds like you could do with a bow instrument. Okay, like a Paolina or a cello. Then we have to take into consideration the physiological characteristic of the guitar. Like, I have one note here. If I have the other one here, it's very difficult to have a legato effect, of course. Then we have the open strings. We have the keys to take into consideration, because some keys on the guitar just are very hard to make them sound well. Okay? If we have an E minor on the guitar, it's perfect. If we have an F sharp major, it's a nightmare. Okay? So while you play a Mozart sonata in E flat major for the piano, it's easy. Okay, on the guitar, it's almost impossible. Okay, just think about, I don't know, the second movement from Sonata Maggio Boccherini by Castelnuovo Tedesco. It's in G minor. G minor, we have an open string, which is a E natural, but we have an E flat in the key. So we will have always the resonance of the first string, which is an E natural. And also, we have the sixth string, which is an E. So, Segovia, working with Castelnuovo Tedesco, decided to bring the sixth string to a D. Okay. Then to have the fundamental note of the scale, put the fifth string in G. Okay? So the result of playing in G minor on the guitar is that it's possible, of course, but you have to take, you have to do something in order to make it sound well. And we have also a last point, which is not very often taken into consideration. So the guitar is a transposal instrument, not like the saxophone, but it is a transposal instrument actually, because it sounds an octave lower than the real note. So if we transcribe a piece and we don't take it into consideration, it will all sound an octave lower. It may be a twice, you know, but it will sound darker, of course. Pedro, can we move on? Thank you. Okay. I choose, the most unknown pieces from the guitar repertoire, which is Asturias. Of course, Asturias is not even the original title of the piece. Doesn't matter, of course. By Albeniz. I guess all of you are aware that it's not originally composed for guitar. It became emblematic for our instrument, but it's not originally composed for guitar. It's originally composed for piano. And we have here the first page of the piano score. And we can see something very strange to us, like we have D flat, E flat. So the original key wasn't an E minor as we are used to listen to Asturias on the guitar, but it was a G minor. Okay, so that's the original one, Pedro. Okay, take into consideration only the first part of Suardo, the first page of two different transcriptions. The first one to be taken into consideration is the Segovia's version. Of course, is one, I think, of the most famous version of Asturias. I used to practice this version when I was a kid. So the first thing that we notice is the change of the key to make it sound better on the guitar. Because we were talking about that playing a piece in G minor on the guitar may be very difficult. Okay. Also, it's not a matter of it's difficult or it's not difficult. You know, using the open B that we have on the guitar, you know, playing in E minor make more resonance. Okay, so for the guitar may sound better and may be easier. Then we can notice another thing. We cannot see it very well from the original score, but everything has a staccato sign on every note. They like this way. On the Segovia version, we don't have a staccato. We may think that he forgot to put the staccato sign on his version. Probably not. He was aware of it. But in my opinion, he decided to just cut off the staccato signs because we have, for example, the open B. How can you stop the open B? You can do anything you want, but it's very complicated. And it may make the result, just not so smooth. Okay, so we have in this version a smoothness that is antithetic to the original articulation. And here is a very curious thing that happens here. We have some triplets, some quick triplets. Here we don't have triplets. We have a double D, but we don't have triplets. That may be because on the guitar only the double B could be weak. Okay, so the other triplet enhance the difference between this part and this other part. And the last thing that we can notice on in the first page is that we don't have agogic or dynamic signs Okay. Also here, we may forgot Segovia, forgot the dynamics. Actually, it's not this way. Because Segovia changed the original score. So, these dynamics, in this case, are not coherent with what is written here. So, in this way, Segovia is going in a totally new direction. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay. This is another version, another transcription by Carlos Trepat. It is correct the pronunciation, yes? Carlos and Trepat, it's correct? Okay. By Carlos Trepat. And we have a totally different context. I mean, first of all, we do not have a change in the key. You see, Trepat version is in G minor. Of course, it's very difficult to play it in G minor. It's possible. See, the sixth string is in D, the fifth string is in G. Then he kept the staccato signs, okay, on the notes, and also every dynamic, every agogic sign is reported very precisely. In the part where in Segovia there was another triplet, here we don't have another triplet. We have the same as the original. Of course, we have, I mean, it's not a problem, but it's a matter of fact that it may seem exactly the same, but we have to remind that the guitar is a transposal instrument. So, Trepat version, compared to the original piano version, will sound at the beginning an octave lower. Okay, so it will sound more dark. Okay, more deep. Can we go on, Peter? Okay. So, have we got a solution for that? Is there a correct transcription of Asturias? I should say yes, but actually no. Of course, if you are a student and you want to play, I don't know, whatever, Asturias for example, ask your teacher. Okay, they know the right thing to do, and a good idea could be to ask the teacher why. Like, okay, I want to play Asturias. Okay, I'll give you the Segovia version. Thank you, teacher. Thank you so much, teacher. Can't wait to play, to study like 4 or 5 hours a day. But why did you give me this transcription? Okay, they know the answer. Okay, and the way they will share it with you. So we don't have a correct transcription. Okay, Segovia's version fit maybe quite better the guitar, but also, you know, the direction to try to keep more precisely as possible the indication of the composer, the key of the composer that the composer wrote. It's a very interesting direction. So, also in this case, what do you do? Do whatever you like, as long as what you do is coherent with a musical reason. Okay. What we learn today is that there is not an only way to transcribe correctly, but it is an act of interpretation. So when you transcribe, or you play transcribed pieces, search for what is important to you, okay, for what fits you better. I mean, the importance is to understand the sound of what you're gonna play, the atmosphere, the context, and the value of the piece. Okay, just look for what you are looking in that kind of music. Every choice can have its own dignity. That's very important. There's not just one correct choice. But we need to have a deep and sincere musical reason. Like, I want to enhance the harmony side of this piece, or I want to make, emerge the melody and the singability of the piece. Okay. If you maintain the coherence with what you would like to hear on that piece, your choice will be probably fine. Pedro? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, Christian. It has been a pleasure. To me personally, it didn't help so much as I like very much to transcribe, and you didn't give me any answers.
I know. That's what the purpose.
I'm joking, of course, and I would like to know if anyone wants to ask something about transcriptions. Mariana?
Yeah. Thank you very much. It was very
You're very welcome.
I want to ask you about the Asturias, about Trepat.
Yes.
Have you, do you have the whole score? Is it published actually?
I think yes. I do have the...
Did you try to play?
Yes.
Because I didn't know that Trepat, I'm following him, I know his work, and I really like him. And I didn't know that he did that. Have you tried to play?
And there's also some recordings on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's for sure cool.
In my opinion, it's very difficult.
What did you think of the music? Like when you tried it, like how did you feel? Because it's different.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, I have a personal opinion. I mean, Jerbat's version is more modern in a way. Like, we technically evolved, so now we're ready to try to play Asturias in the same key. Okay. In my humble opinion, for me, E minor is easier. And if it is easier, it can sound like, maybe yes, it fits better the guitar in E minor, because the guitar is tuned in E minor. But I think that Trebat's work is very deep. I mean, it's a work of research, so it's a work with a great value. Personally, for me, for my skills and my abilities, it would be a bit crazy trying to play it in concert.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a very valid work in my opinion. So if for you it's important to hear the G minor, which actually, I don't know if you can just make a quick example. The G minor, of course we have to tune down the whole word. It's very fascinating. Yeah. But the E minor is more. You know, it's different. Okay. So, I mean, personally, I would choose E minor.
Okay.
But it depending on who's playing at that moment. I mean, if you like the G minor so much, and I like the G minor so much, but for my skills, it's not worth it. You know, all the effort.
Yeah.
But for my skills and in my opinion,
Yeah.
if Trepat plays in concert, it will be playing it beautifully. Okay. And maybe I will go out from that concert and I say,
Okay, now.
now I have to play with
Yeah.
G minor.
I don't know. I think it's a matter of choice as well.
Yeah, it is.
I think in a way that maybe he thinks that's the right way to do it. That's why I think this is what I mean. I'm trying also like to find an answer if this is the correct way to transcribe.
Yes, also the first version was after many years compared to the Segovi's version.
Okay, they are not okay.
So
Maybe.
there was also maybe, you know, a try to do something different.
Yeah, but knowing his work, I don't know. I don't think that that's his direction.
No, of course,
Yeah.
of course. But you know, it's a matter of fact. It's different,
Yeah,
and it is interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, I love it. I love the piece. Both ways. I know I didn't answer you earlier.
No, you did. Yeah, I asked you, actually, you tried to play. If you played it also.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a very last one myself. Christian, what's your opinion on changing the tuning of the guitar for transcription? Do you have any experience, and could you let us know? I mean, I'm not talking about putting the sixth string down. I'm talking about changing the, let's say, standard E minor to B major or to even D minor.
Well,
as a small example.
in my experience, maybe I didn't change so much the guitar tuning. I guess that of course I tuned down the sixth string, I tuned down the fifth string. I don't think nothing more. Maybe some in Brauer's sonata there's a sixth string in F, so you have to put it up. But after that, not crazy things. I mean, but we should hear the result, in my opinion. That's that's what defines if it is good or not. I mean, some keys need some changes. If you play in G minor, you play Granados, for example, it's very useful to have the fundamental notes with the fifth string. Sometimes you can find the second string in B flat. For me, always, for my skills and for my style of practice, to tune down the second string, for example, in B flat, it's a nightmare for my personal experience and for my skills. But as long as you do it and the whole piece sounds well, why not? In my humble opinion, I see this, that way. Also, sometimes you find the sixth string in C sharp. I mean, if you have to play in C sharp minor, of course you need a deep bass. And a guitar composer, hardly composing in C sharp minor. Okay, it's something that you find out when you decide to transcribe something. So you have to, the title of the presentation was to transcribe or not to transcribe. You have to decide C sharp major or D minor, or D major, for example. That is the question. So in that case, you have to see if it's worth to change the tuning, or it's better to change the key directly. It depends on the different cases. Okay, what do you think about this?
What do I
What do you think? Yes.
Well, I think that just changing one string, you can have a lot of good possibilities just to make new, how do you say? Before saying that, if you put a capolastra on the second fret or on the third, playing Renaissance or whatever, just the music goes up. So then you're playing another instrument, you feel in another. It's like you change cars, because the ears listen for something else. So coming back to your question, for example, if you put the fifth string on B, then the B major is super easy and super accessible. Although the other way, the B minor, the B major is not that good the way we play that. Or even the D minor going to F, D, A. The only thing is that the strings suffer a lot. But yes, I have tried myself a lot. As you might know, I do it. And on the practice, what I finally do is like, okay, you have to record this. I do it. They have to play it in concert. I stop doing it because you are always suffering with the tuning. Yeah, so
that's another thing to be taken into consideration, for example. Yes. In the real concrete practice.
And just to let you know an example, I play a lot with the fifth string in B, and the night that I forget to put it down, in the morning it could have to go.
Okay. Yes. Another practical thing. Yes. Thank you, Pedro. In my personal opinion, if you do it well and if you like to do it, just do it. It will sound great, and I will listen to it.
Yes, the thing that the feeling is like you sleep with other sounds on your ears, and not just four keys.
But if these sounds are beautiful,
yes.
Why not? I mean, that's my personal position.
Anyone wants to go in or to ask anything else? Thanks a lot, Christian.